everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video we are going to be talking about this quote-unquote experiment called the Russian sleep experiment that apparently happened around World War II. Anyways, let's get into the video. This experiment was called Russian sleep experiment, like I said in the beginning of this video, but in case you didn't catch that. The Russian sleep experiment was apparently this science experiment in the late 1940s during World War II. Russian scientists wanted to find a way to keep their soldiers awake for a long period of time, so they came up with this experiment to test the effects of extreme sleep loss. What they did is rounded up 5 prisoners of war and offered them their freedom if they went through this experiment. The prisoners agreed and were put in the sealed gas chamber that produced this experimental gas that they knew nothing about but were confident that it wouldn't off them. We don't know nothing about this, but it's totally safe. It totally won't kill anyone. Anyways, and that it would keep them awake, and the researchers did provide the 5 prisoners with places to sit, food, water, a bathroom, and books to read, so they had everything they needed. They put the 5 war prisoners into the gas chamber. Since this was the late 1940s, at this time they had no cameras inside the room, unlike we would today, as you would think. However, they did have microphones in there and had 5 little porthole windows where the researchers could look into. The experiment starts and really nothing too bad happens the first 3 days. Everything seemed pretty normal. At around the 4th day, the researchers started to notice a change in what the prisoners were discussing. It went from small talk to traumatic events that has happened to them and complaints about being in this experiment. It was around the 6th day they all stopped talking to each other completely and became paranoid of one another and went to separate sections of the chamber. They started to believe if they sell out their comrades, they would be able to get out of the experiment. So they would go to the portholes and microphones one by one and start whispering these made-up stories about the other to try to get them in trouble in exchange for freedom. But as you would think, the researchers didn't care. After about 9 days, things took a very dark turn. It was the morning of the 10th day. At this point, everyone is completely separated and not speaking a word to each other, muttering and whispering, and one of them just starts screaming for 3 hours straight and running back and forth until he finally stops screaming. But he's still running around. The researchers find out that he has physically torn his vocal cords from screaming for so long. The other prisoners didn't react to all this and just began to rip out pages of the books and soak in them, then putting them on the portholes, blurring the view. By the time the guy that torn his vocal cord stopped screaming, everything goes quiet. Due to the book pages covering the portholes, the researchers could no longer see what was going on in the chamber. After 3 days of the researchers discussing what they should do, they came to the conclusion that either their microphones have broke or something is wrong. So they decided to use their intercom to reach out to the subjects to tell them they're going to be coming into the chamber to check on the microphones and that they all are to lay down on the ground and not interact with them, and if they listen, they will offer one of them immediate release and freedom. After the researchers are done talking, one of the subjects says to the microphone after 3 days of silence, they no longer want to be freed. So the researchers realize that their microphone is still working and that they're alive, so they don't go into the chamber. The silence continues until the 15th day. At midnight, they decided the experiment was over, so they flushed the room of the gas and replaced it with fresh air. And then they started hearing screaming from the subjects inside. They were begging the researchers to turn the gas back on. The researchers see what the chamber looks like since the 10th day, and what they see looked like something that was straight out of a horror movie. 4 of the subjects are still alive. One of them perished somehow at some point. There were chunks of flesh that have been taken off of his chest and his legs have been jammed into the drain in the center of the room, and they had turned on the water in the bathroom and flooded the place. There was almost 4 inches of water on the ground with lots of gross stuff in the water. There was even chunks of other subjects' own flesh that has been ripped off their body. And it was later discovered that they did it to themselves, not by using their teeth either, but by using their bare hands and eating their own flesh. The food storage that the researchers provided from them haven't been touched in days. It was like they all lost their minds and began to eat themselves. Despite all this, the prisoners still did not want to leave the chamber. They just kept begging and pleaded the researchers to turn the gas back on. So the researchers actually got some soldiers to drag the remaining prisoners that were alive out. The remaining subjects fought so aggressively, one even jumped up and bit the neck of one of the soldiers, leading to the soldier to bleed to death. Another one of the prisoners, I might mess this word up too, spleen erupted leading them to bleed to death. I actually had to look up what a spleen is, but this is apparently the body part that they are mentioning / organ. Had to do my own little research while researching for this. So now you have 2 soldiers just dragging them out of the room. They finally get the 3 remaining prisoners out of the chamber. They heavily restrained them and brought them to a medical facility because they needed serious medical help. As you would imagine, the most injured of the 3 was immediately brought into the medical room first. And when the doctors tried to give him the medicine to prepare him for surgery, it was almost like he was immune to it. The man kept fighting, begging him to put him back under the gas, and starts viciously fighting back and kept pleading them to not put him under the anesthesia? Essenek? Sorry, this is the word I'm trying to pronounce. Sorry, I'm terrible with pronouncing words, so I'm trying my best, okay? And that he needed to stay awake while struggling and fighting back. The man actually manages to tear one of the leather straps holding him down. When they finally managed to put him under the gas, medicine, he died. When that one died, they moved on to the next worst off one, which was the guy who tore his vocal cords. He can't speak, obviously, but he starts shaking his head because he doesn't want the medicine or to go into surgery either, and also starts to fight with them. Then eventually just passes out from exhaustion and passes away as well. So now there is only one living subject left. Instead of bringing the last one into the medical room to get surgery, since they just watched the other 2 die, they decided to put the last guy back into the chamber and turn the gas back on, because apparently that's the one thing keeping these guys alive. When they put him back in the chamber, they hooked him up to an EEG that basically measures the person's brain waves, and starts watching him again and notices his brain waves go flat, then up again. As they were watching, they noticed every time the guy would close his eyes like one of those micro sleeps, that's when his line would go flat. And when he wakes up, his line would go up and down again. So they tried to rush to get the gas back on to keep this guy alive, but they didn't do it in time, and the guy fell asleep and died. Basically, all the subjects died. No one knows if it was from staying awake too long, or from the gas, or a mixture of the 2, but I guess we'll never know. This was apparently just a story, and there is no evidence of this actually existing, but during World War II, there was horrific cases of unethical human experiments, but this case is just known as a creepypasta as far as we know for now. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like. If you want to see more content like this, make sure to subscribe to this channel. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. See you guys in my next video. Bye!